Hi, I'm Serge. I'm a husband, a father, a technical sales rep, and I'm also the founder and project developer of the IAFM League, a personal development league for men. And one of my missions is to give men the chance to have fun and challenge themselves while building consistency and growth in their lives. And this is my podcast. Here I'll speak with everyday men, just like you and me, to discuss their struggles, their successes, their passions, and desires to becoming the best version of themselves. So thanks for joining and welcome to the IAFM Podcast. Hi, and welcome to the IAFM Podcast, and I'm very excited to have you join us for our launch. Quite honestly, I never thought I'd be doing this, starting a podcast, but part of the inspiration has been having excellent conversations with men and wanting to share those with you. And I'm excited to have you join us for our guest today, LaVance Dotson. I've known him for over a decade now, and he's one of the most passionate people I know. And since I've met him, he's always been an excellent speaker, but down to earth, and he connects really well and powerfully with people. He has a beautiful family with his wife and business partner, Colleen, and their 3 children. And I look forward to you joining us for our chat today about football, the perception of masculinity in sports, and also his wife calling him out on something that ultimately inspired the creation and development of their WooEternal business and their WooYourBoo app. It's designed to help couples and families strengthen their relationships. So this is the IAFM Podcast, and this is my chat with LaVance Dotson. All right, hi, and welcome to the I'm a Fucking Man podcast. I'm extremely excited to have our guest today, LaVance Dotson. LaVance, thank you so much for being here, buddy. How are you?
Doing good, man. Thank you for inviting me. Looking forward to this call and chopping it up with you.
Absolutely. I mean, we've known each other for over a decade. We've known each other through a business. Yeah, I know it's been over 10 years, which is awesome. And we met through a business venture over 10 years ago. You actually introduced me to it. We didn't know each other, but you recruited me, introduced me, and we learned a lot through that business venture. And I'm grateful for what we did learn. But I think it also made us realize certain things that we learned about ourselves as men and our relationships with our partners. So I want to talk about that today. I want to talk about WooYourBoo, which is incredible. I'm so excited for you and your wife, Colleen, for creating this platform. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. And I want to, before we get into that, I want to talk about, because you were a football player. You played football, college football, and you had aspirations to play professionally in the NFL. So I want to talk a little bit about that when relating to back then, your mentality and focus and outlook as a man in a culture that is male dominant. And so I want to, let's start with when you were training and playing. You had these aspirations to play professionally. So why did you want to play professionally? What was the fuel to make it happen?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. The reason why I wanted to play professional football, hindsight, was really to change the trajectory of my family. Growing up in the inner city, not having a lot of money, not having a lot of resources to be exposed to the world, right, as a young person, was in some ways was a handicap to my development. And I knew that having my own family someday, also having cousins and one day nieces and nephews, I thought it would be great to change the trajectory of our family forever. I was the first one to go to college or university and graduate. And so that was an element of it. But I knew that making it to the NFL, playing at that level, the exposure, the opportunities for business, the impact that it would ultimately have on my immediate family, and then my my family outside that, and could change the dynamic of our family forever. So that was really the big reason why. It wasn't about the fame or the glitz and the glam of the NFL. It was just, hey, I want to change my family tree forever. And I feel like that everybody needs a rich person in their family. Everybody.
Everybody wants one. Everybody wants a rich family member.
Right.
Yeah. So
that's really the reason.
I mean, so why football then?
Well, I was an athlete and I was good at it. I was really good. It came natural to me. My first passion was basketball, though. I still play a little bit of that today, but football was the space that allowed me to get a scholarship to actually play. So they paid for my schooling. And like I said, naturally gifted at it, and and it just made sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you're talking about changing the trajectory of your life, your family's life, was that something that was common with some of the other athletes you were playing with? Was that?
It wasn't talked about a lot, and probably mainly because, the institution that I attended or that I went to. So I went to a Division II school. And typically, if you make it to the NFL out of the Division II, I mean, you're like, it's not that you're not a good athlete. You're just not, it's not looked at like Division I schools, like a big school.
Okay.
But if you make it out of that institution and get to the NFL, I mean, you're the cream of the crop. Like you're like upper echelon. And while I was a good athlete and I started and I played, 3 years there, started as a cornerback 3 years, I wasn't the upper echelon of Division II football across across the United States, although I was a good player and probably could have played Division I talent wise. So it wasn't a conversation that was really talked about a lot, although we did have scouts come to our practices, come to our spring games and things like that. But it wasn't how I'd imagine if you went to like a Florida State or if you went to like an Alabama, right, one of those schools in the SEC, where it's like, you're always talking about, hey, when we go to the league, and because virtually every game you're at, there's some type of scout there. They're coming into your locker rooms, whether or they're or somewhere around that vicinity where you see them and they see you. So it's the believability, if that's a word, like it's prevalent amongst the athletes there and what's possible, because it's the next step if you're a good athlete. And you don't even have to be the cream of the cream of Division I. You can be just an average player, but if you start and you're consistent, you got a shot to make it to the NFL.
So what was, because you talked a little bit about that, almost like if you're playing in this division, then you're essentially I have a very good chance of playing.
You got a good chance if you're a good player. Yeah,
so what was the culture like because I know you as a calm, confident individual. You don't, you're not showy, but you were playing a very physical sport, a physical, competitive, in your face sport. So what was the culture like being around a group of men, young men, high testosterone? What was the culture like? Was it what's on the field stays on the field, or did it carry over to a lot of? And the reason why I'm asking this is just the idea of positive masculinity, because for a lot of men, or people in general, when they think of sports or athletes, there's a vision of who that person is.
Correct. Yeah.
Because it's what we see on television. It's what we see in interviews and things like that.
Right.
So can you tell us a little bit about?
Yeah. So to talk about culture, the culture of, at that time, we had a coach who was technically a good coach. And I mean, even today, this coach has moved on and he's coaching at a Division I school and he's making like $2 million a year. So he's a good coach. But at my time, he wasn't a great player, athlete coach, or he wasn't a good player coach. In other words, his masculinity, the way he demonstrated it was through anger, through the words that he used to cut us down. And I can remember him throwing a chair across the meeting room, not to get our attention, but to like show some type of power trip.
Right.
So he was very abusive in the way that he coached us. Was he a good person? Absolutely. Have no doubt in my mind he was a good person. But I also think that he grew up in an era where those type of behaviors were accepted. And there were a lot of microaggressions, like being Black, like I couldn't grow my hair. That's why I have my hair grown now.
Okay.
You couldn't braid it, couldn't do anything, you had to cut it. And I mean, today you look at his teams today, none of them have, all of them are allowed to grow their hair, but I think that was just his maturation as a coach and his success, which I'm happy for him. But the culture, that's the type of culture it was. Now with the team, like amongst my teammates, I wouldn't say that we were tight knit or that I was tight knit with my teammates.
Yeah.
And that was partly, it was probably just probably my discomfort. Like, even though I enjoyed being in a room or in a space with 100 men, it was about 100 of us, young men, that was great. But I never really understood how I needed that space and why it was important to open up in a space like that amongst men. It was as if I was an outsider. But what I learned from that experience many years later was the importance of having good relationships with men who hold you accountable to become your best in any modality of life. And because of that, when I look back on that experience, I told my wife the other day, I was like, man, there was some fruit that I let dry up on the branch, or there was some fruit I let drop to the ground because of my ignorance back then with regards to the opportunities that I had with potentially building relationships with those men, those young men at the time. So a little bit about the culture that we grew up in, how it impacted me, even today as a man. There was definitely some positive things that came out of that. Some things in terms of what not to do and how I want to be as a man, because essentially your head coach is almost, or coaches period, in that space, they're like father figures. So there are things that you learn, and there was a lot of negative aspects to that experience. There were many positive aspects to that experience, and I think that I'm a little older now, and a little more mature, that I can look back at that experience and make the distinguish between both, and then be able to take the positive and add it to myself and kind of learn from the negative.
So when you were going through that, and seeing whether it was your coach reacting a certain way, were there times where you were like, because you're reacting as a student.
Yeah, student athlete, yeah.
You're reacting as an athlete, you're reacting as a young man. Were there thoughts of, this is not who I would want to be? Or this is what I have to be in order to be involved in this world or involved in this culture?
I think what it was his behavior actually created it was almost like he was an enemy in some ways. And because of how he treated us sometimes. But it in some ways it helped us to gel together as a team,
right?
At least some of us, because it was like we had this common story about how we hated our coach.
Yeah.
And we would talk about, even to this day, like we don't hate him at all.
No,
but we would talk about how he talked, the things he said, because these are things like he would repeat all the time, and now it's burned in our head. And so that's how we talk to each other. It's like, you remember this? And then, so in some ways it's created good memories, because even though it's it's traumatic and, sometimes, and that may sound crazy to say that my football experience was traumatic, but when a grown man who you look up to as a father speaks to you and emasculates you, it can be traumatic. But there are things that we look back and laugh at. So I'm not sure if I'm answering your question, but when I think about that, it's like,
you are.
Learning from that experience. I don't think at the time I was like, oh, I'm never going to be a man like that. I used to look at him like, this dude's crazy. And it's like, I actually want to physically fight him. And I
Okay.
actually did. And there was one day I was contemplating it, like for real. I was like, I'm gonna go in his office and I'm gonna punch him in his face. And then I started thinking about all the ramifications, right?
Yeah. Well,
If I punch him in his face, I'm gonna lose my scholarship, and then I might go to jail, and then I won't be able to finish university. I won't have the, that type of thing. I was like, probably shouldn't go punch the coach in his face. I was like, well, I'm going to go tell him how I feel about the way he talks to us. And at that moment, I felt like, hey, man, don't worry about it. You're almost complete here. Finish your job and move on. And that's what I did. I don't regret. I wish I had the maturity today as a man that I did. I wish I had the maturity right now that I have today back at 21, 20 years old, because I would have been able to have an intelligent conversation with him, and it would have been impactful, and it would have actually helped our team. We were a good team, but he didn't realize that the bad seed that he was sowing was the reason why we couldn't really get over the hump. We had all the athletes we needed, but the culture, we had all the athletes and athleticism to compete and to do well, but the culture, when you're competing at a high level in Division II, because we were at the high level of all of Division II, but it's just a little bit of a degree, a little bit of a change, a little bit of seed that actually puts you over the edge. And we didn't have that because our culture was a negative culture.
Yeah. Well, I think whether you're an athlete or not, people relate to this at the workplace. They can relate to this.
Absolutely. Yes.
Family.
Yep.
They can relate to it. So I'm glad you're bringing this up. It's excellent because it's something that, and like you said, you had this impulse that you want to physically go in.
Yeah, because I felt assaulted by him, by his words. So I assault him with my fist.
Yeah. Which
in words,
people want to do to their boss or to a colleague or to even certain family members.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, like you said, I love the point you mentioned of you wish you had that maturity at 21, and it's through the development and what you've learned since then that has made you the man that you are now. But I think that's so poignant because it's something that you would expect the coach to know. A grown man, that's us at that a certain age, looking up to a figure, whether it's a father figure or a teacher or coach, you're like, shouldn't they be creating a greater environment? And I think it lacks in many aspects.
It wasn't all bad. I wouldn't say that, and the reason I said that this coach was a good coach is because he did do things. It was like having a father who would hug you, right? And say, hey, good job, bud. But then, turn around and curse you.
Yeah.
How bad you are. And he feeds you, but he also is abusive.
Yeah.
It's like you're having these two dynamics. It's almost as if he was bipolar.
Yeah.
Right. The way I'm explaining it. But that's the way it looked. Yeah. That's the way it felt. There wasn't a sense of power. I didn't get the sense of power and overwhelming presence. Like, this is a man who deserves my respect because of the type of human he is.
Right.
It's like, this is a man I'm gonna respect because if I don't, he's gonna end up saying something, or he's vindictive. Yep. And he was at the time. He was vindictive. It
was fear-based.
But things like that, when he was wielding his power in a way that was harmful for the culture, where if he wielded it the right way, man, we would have had a phenomenal team.
Yeah.
We would have had a phenomenal team because technically, when I say technically, I mean like technically sound. He was a technically sound coach, and he knew how to coach, and he knows how to coach, and he's great at it. And he's great at it today. I'm sure of it, because every program that he's gone to, he's continually gotten better and better, which is fantastic. And but I think it also shows his maturation as well, too, as he had to learn that when you're coaching players, especially Black players, you have to let them be who they are.
And he was a white coach, I'm guessing?
Yeah, he was a white coach. In their language and what they say and how they live, right? Being respectful and being honoring the environment and respecting the environment,
Yeah.
but you can't steal from them their identity, because you're stealing from them the best parts of them, which you want to show up on in the game. It's just like at work. You don't want to, steal people's creativity or their abilities by saying you can't wear this, or when it's respectful, or by saying you can't do these things or you can't explore this, because you want the best of them to show to work. Because when that happens, synergies are created, and then you're able to do something special, But it takes a person who's mature to be able to understand that and comfortable within themselves and their own being, to be able to live that out. Because even if you know it, there still has to go from a mind to a heart knowledge to be able to allow yourself to exist in that space, even if there's discomfort, in order so you can grow into that space as a leader.
Awesome. I love it. Well, I'm happy to hear, even though I don't know this coach, that he's progressed and evolved. And
it appears to be, and I'm pretty sure he has, right?
Yeah.
He wouldn't have made it this far without having.
Exactly. Exactly. And what you talked about, that brotherhood that was created, though it was negatively taken, what he was bringing towards you, often it helped you bond with your teammates in a certain way. And like you said, that community is important, especially when you're all going through it at the same time.
That's how you cope with one of your coping mechanisms. It becomes one of your coping mechanisms to be able to endure day to day.
Now let's fast forward a little bit to when we met and when we started working together, because I want to talk about that, because for me, my experience, and we've talked about this before, at the time, it was a positive one. We were learning, we had ambition, and we had a vision and goals of what we wanted the business to become and develop and grow.
That's right.
But afterwards, we realized that we weren't focused on our relationships, especially with our partners and now wives. And I remember at the time, I almost had to, for me, convince myself that I was doing the right thing, because I saw that it wasn't going, she wasn't necessarily happy with it. And I was like, no, I have to prove this. I have to prove that, because it's also what we were hearing from the company, like, this might happen, but it's okay. And now looking back, I'm like, I think you can have both. You can have an extremely strong relationship. You should.
Both. Yeah.
But that wasn't the focus. The focus wasn't, okay, I want to strengthen my relationship. It was almost taken for granted that, well, I'm with this person, we're engaged and we're getting married and we're having a kid. They're going to support me through this thick and thin, without going, hey, how is this affecting them? How is this affecting them? As opposed to just kind of ignoring it and crossing your fingers. So I know you've talked to me a little bit about that. Can you share your experience, and if there was anything different?
Man. Firstly, I approached the business that we were in because I knew it was an opportunity to help people financially, especially with their financial education. I knew that. And I knew that I needed it. And it was something that was right in my wheelhouse. And I saw the impact that the lack of finances or financial education, or lack thereof, had on my family, So it dovetailed really well into what I was trying to do in that regard with helping people, but also the same desire that I had wanting to play in the NFL and to create a legacy and change the course of my family. And so for me, when I look back on it, it was a positive experience in the things that I've learned. And I wouldn't be the man today that I am today, and have the ambition and belief in that dog in me, right? When I say dog, I mean that I'm gonna keep attacking until I accomplish something. I don't think I would have had that today. So I'm grateful for that. But what I missed out on was, like you mentioned, it was the messaging as a young man that I was getting, or that we were getting, that was one-sided. It was success is everything and making money is everything because you are able to have freedom for your family. Those things are true. But what wasn't discussed was, hey, while you're doing this, if your family is broken, if your relationship is broken, if you're not excelling in your relationship at the same time, you're actually doing it wrong. Because the reality is, you can have, there are countless of people, at the organization who had achieved levels of success, but were married 2 and 3 times over during the period as they were building their brokerage, right? And that's not success to me, right? Financially, yes, but the heartache that was, the trail of heartache along the way, right?
Yeah,
that's not success. And part of the main reason why I left, and kind of gave up my business wasn't because of their thoughts in the way that they approached it. It was really because my mom had passed away. And when my mom passed away, I had an opportunity to sit and reflect about life and its meaning and what I really wanted. And I discovered that, man, there was a lot of things that I learned from reading books and looking at, how do you call them? Or reading books and watching TV, or listening to people speak to me, whether it's at that organization or another organization, about dreams. And I realized that I was taking their dreams and I was making them my dreams.
Yeah.
Is, if you're not aware of it, like, you shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
Because you may not even, because the things that make them happy may not make you happy. But if you never actually sit and explore about the things that make you happy, or make you feel fulfilled or make you feel good, you never take the time to do that, then you'll never realize it. So a 5,000 square foot home, 10,000 square foot home was like, yeah, that's great because of this and that and the other. But it's like, I'm okay with a 2,000, 2,500 square foot home. Yeah. As long as I can go do this and I can go do this and I can go here. Maybe I got another home, in Costa Rica somewhere. Like, okay, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I was living into a dream that wasn't my own. And it's hard to live, it's hard to build somebody else's dream. You lose steam, you lose motivation, you lose that encouragement. Why? Because you don't know that it's not even your dream that you're building. You're building somebody else's dream that you thought was a good idea for you. And so I looked at that and I said, man, wow, what I actually want, I'm very clear on what I want in life now and why I want it. And I feel better about it. And that, that thought process or that shift in my mind is giving me the energy, by the grace of God, to do the work that I'm doing today and to continue to do it.
Yeah.
Because I know that with the work that we're doing today, it's going to have a real life impact on society, like in a real way. Mm-hmm. And not saying that the work we were doing prior, that it wouldn't, because it would have had a real impact on society in a real way as well. So we're fortunate that we were in, that we were involved in that sense. But that's my story. And my wife, my relationship, it struggled during that time because I lost a lot of money. And and I didn't make it back. So it struggled in that sense. And but when I look back on it, our relationship is better for today by the grace of God again. But there were things that I said out of the name of being driven in success and having to be a provider for my family, things that I said to my wife that I shouldn't have never, ever said, right, in that process.
Yeah. Well, I think, we go through different emotions, we have these aspirations. And for me, when I look back, a lot of it was fear-based. And it was like, I have to prove.
Interesting.
I have to prove this to people. I have to prove that this will work because I made this choice to go down to do this opportunity, this venture. And, when you talk about the idea of other people's dreams, I think it's extremely important for people to share their dreams and share, this is what I've attained and this is the level of success I've had. But like you mentioned, it's easy to get bought into, okay, well, if that's what success is, then that's what I have to do, as opposed to what is my definition of success?
And being okay with it though.
Yeah.
Because sometimes there was oftentimes it was like, I went down that path, but I was never okay. I felt like what I wanted wasn't okay for me.
Yeah.
Because they said that this was the goal. And by the way, what they said, there's nothing wrong with it.
No.
But I wasn't okay with what I wanted.
Yeah.
And that's a problem because you'll never get it.
Yeah.
If you're not okay.
And then there's the questioning of why isn't this working? What's wrong with me? Why can't I do this faster? That person seems to have it figured out, and and then you start doubting and questioning, and then you don't enjoy the process, and it doesn't become fun. So
that's a formula for losing if you don't enjoy it.
Which I think is, we were in a business venture, but I think it's for a lot of people when it relates to work, or relates to their relationships, they're going through the motions because of fear. Okay, well, I have to work here because I have to earn money to pay the bills, to pay the mortgage, But it's like, you made that choice to apply there, accept the job, work there. So that's where I think for me, it was, I have to prove that this will work because I made that choice, and I don't want to be wrong.
You're right. I don't. Yeah, exactly. I don't want to be the guy that is wrong.
And I've learned that there's the expression, you can be right or you can be happy. And so going, okay, well, what's because it wasn't a focus of mine back then of being happy, and I think it's something that, and I'm glad we're talking about this, that a lot of men, it's not a focus to be happy. We want our spouse to be happy because if she's happy or they're happy, they're not complaining.
Right. And then I'm happy.
Yeah. And then I'm happy. There's no stress. So I want her to be happy. I want my kids to be happy. As opposed to what will make me happy.
What's going to bring
Yes, it can be earning more money. It can be this position. It can be having those things. But that's what we're kind of taught as men, as opposed to, what about strengthening your relationship with your loved ones? Won't that make you happy? I'm sure it will, but we'll all be happy when we get financially free.
And that's not true. That's not a one-to-one. That's not like, hey, financially free equals happiness. That's not true. That equation is not true. No, 100%.
And so it's so I think that's where, unfortunately, for a lot of men, they will sacrifice different aspects of their lives, whether it's their health, whether it is their, like you said, money, whether it is their relationships, in order to attain this, what they think is happiness.
Because we're taught, though, the men are taught that that's our value, right? We're taught that, to be valuable as a man, you have to make money and you have to be successful. That's what we're taught. In fact, it's like, even in today's society, like you and I are blessed because we're not out there dating.
Yeah.
I think we're not out there dating. But think about it. The older a man gets, the more valuable he becomes to women. Think about it.
Mm-hmm.
What in his 20s, in his 30s, he may not be able to pick up all the, he may not have his game together to be able to pick up different types of women because he's not established financially.
Right.
I'm saying he's still growing and trying to get better and things like that and become a greater man. But once he gets established, it's usually around like his 40s, right? Like once he gets established, once he starts making some good bread, right? That's when he becomes more attractive and more appealing.
Mm-hmm.
Because now to a woman, that is, because now that woman, whenever she gets with him, she doesn't have to worry about money. She knows she's going to have stability, which is almost like the number one thing a woman wants is safety and security.
Safety, absolutely. Which we don't think of. We don't
Right.
think that that's what the woman, she does, what she wants is safety, security. No, I totally agree.
Yeah. So that man becomes more valuable. But the woman, and I'm only speaking in society. I'm not saying this is true. I'm just talking about how we treat it.
Yeah.
How we treat. Women become less valuable the older they become.
Unfortunately, yeah.
No, it's the way the society works. Like women become less valuable because it's like when you're 60 years old, like that 60-year-old man, does he want a 40-year-old woman or does he want a 60-year-old woman? And it's like, why does he go for the 40-year-old versus a 60-year-old?
Yeah.
I'm not here to
No, but it's true. But society,
but it's the reality of our society. And so men, I say all that to go back to men, we're conditioned to do this because we do want family. We do want, to be thought of as, or highly thought of as, hey, that guy is great at something or he's successful. We want to be that man's man. We want people to look at us a certain way. And our society has taught us as men, in order to do that, you have to make a lot of money and be successful in business or something where you generate a lot of value. And the sad thing is that women have bought into the same idea. And now these women follow the path of men and they become masculine. And what masculine man wants to be with a masculine woman? So now they struggle because they can't find a man who's more masculine than them. They end up having to be the man in the relationship. And then when they come up against men who are not masculine or who are feminine, now they're going from relationship to relationship to relationship to try to find somebody who can match them. Mm-hmm. It's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough, man.
Yeah. No, we adapt, we grow, we evolve, and we learn. And, that's what I'm grateful for with my relationship with my wife. Because I think there are those energies. There are energy, when the masculine energy is mom mode. This has to get done. She doesn't want to live in that all the time. She wants to be a feminine energy. And so it's me learning, okay, how can I help her be in that feminine energy so she can take a break from that masculine energy that she doesn't necessarily want to be in, but it's like, I have to right now because I'm giving this example because it relates to us being in mom mode. And
it's nothing wrong. It's nothing wrong with women. We should, in my opinion, when there's a man and woman relationship, I can't speak for other relationships, but when there's a relationship between a man and a woman, we have this logic, right? Like men are very logical. Women kind of lead with their heart typically. So when we come into a relationship, we kind of balance each other off because the man teaches the woman not to traffic in her emotions all the time, to only use their emotions. And then the woman teaches the man to not only traffic in his logic. So we balance each other out. And so the energies of masculine and feminine are going to flow between us all the time, and they should. But there should be one of them will be dominant. One of them will be dominant, right? In the home, like in my home, for example, I'm more masculine than my wife. I prefer for her to operate in her feminine, but there are times where she's going to need to operate in masculine, or things just won't get done.
Yeah.
That's just the way that it is, because the feminine energy is like, it's like the wind. It kind of goes and it moves and does what it pleases. Whereas the masculine energy is like boom, 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 like box, like do this, do that, logic, pop, pop, pop. You know what I mean? And but we have to be able to learn how to, in our relationships, when we need to employ one over the other. Like with my children, I can't be all masculine with my kids. I cannot. Right? They'd be tyrants, that's not to be militant, right? So it's like I have to allow that gentleness to come in, and that peace and that love. And sometimes it is a challenge for me because I didn't grow up that way, but I'm aware of it. And so I'm thankful that God gave me a daughter because she brings it out of me. Do you see what I'm saying? So I'm grateful for her. But I don't know why we went on that topic, but I just wanted to share that first. Yeah.
I think it's great. So let's dive into that then, about relationships, and you talking about your wife. So because I know Colleen said something to you, and which
man.
fell to, she said, man, you don't.
Yeah. In our days of trying to build a brokerage, man, she sat me down and she's like, you don't woo me. And I was like, this woman is crazy. Now I was thinking this, okay? She's crazy. I don't know what she's talking about. I'm the romantic in the relationship. What's she talking about? I buy her flowers. I do this and I do that. But what she was actually saying, when I think about it, hindsight, I believe what she was saying was that I just didn't make her feel taken care of as a woman, which was very true.
Right.
Exceptionally. She's like, you don't woo me. And at that time, I was offended, like I just talked about it, but I was also inspired. And that's kind of where the idea of WooYourBoo came out of, because the inspiration came was that I didn't know what to do. Like up until that point, like think about it. I was 22 years old. I got married. All the way up until that point, I had men teaching me how to go pick up a woman, whether that was through music, whether that was through family members or TV.
Yeah.
All the knowledge I needed to go pick up a woman, right? I didn't need help with that. What I needed help with was how to keep her and how to make the relationship successful, but we're not taught that. Naturally, you're going to have problems in a relationship when you're not taught as you're growing up how to make relationships in general successful, naturally. So I was like, well, I wish there was an app that actually taught me how to do this. And it's funny because my wife was like, you should name it WooYourBoo. And I was like, that's corny. I'm not naming it. We're not doing that. But I'll think about it, you know what I'm saying? But that's a true story. But fast forward, man, doing this, the work that I'm doing right now with men across Ontario and even into the US, it taught me that there were a lot of men who had the same challenge that I had, right? And not to speak to women, because they do too, but there were a lot of men who did not know how to woo their boo, or who did not know how to build a successful relationship long term. Yeah. And talking to these men, learning things along the way, applying these things to my relationship, I was like, shoot. And then, kind of sharing these things that I learned with my relationship to these men, other people in my life. I was like, hey, these things are working. I've worked in technology for over a decade. So I was like, hey, you know what? Why don't we build an app to actually help support this? Why an app? Don't ask me that. Because it could have been a website. But let's build an app to support this. And but not just our family, not just the men that I knew, because it was people in my family who were getting divorced, who were having challenges in their relationship even today. And it was like, man, we want to make a difference. We can make a difference in our own family. Let's make a difference across the globe, because the reality is when couples are successful, the family unit is, and the community is, and the society is, and it actually has a benefit financially to the entire financial system across the nation.
Yeah.
When families are successful. So you have to think who benefits for families not being successful, and look at those agendas that are in play. I'm not going to talk about that, but we know that when families are successful, the community, society is successful in a whole. Mental health issues go down, right? Kids grow up, they feel more empowered. And so they go out and they become productive members of society as a result. So WooYourBoo today, man, yes, we deliver the app, but it's at its elementary level today, intentionally. But taking a look above the app and what we are as a company, man, we're really here to help couples and families be successful in their relationship. But the way we're approaching it is through the guise of fun, right? It's through the guise of adventure, it's through fun. And we understand that because human beings, we are social creatures, but we're also creatures that likes to have fun, that enjoys that aspect. And when that's removed from our life becomes begrudging, it becomes melancholy, it becomes depressing, because we were built to play. Just think about that. We were built to play. And a lot, having children, when we look at kids, it's almost like we have to relearn how to become one again, Yeah.
But,
yeah, man.
No, I that's what I love about because now you guys have come out with the new version, but even using the original version, I 100% agree with. I was like, okay, when you talk about elementary, it's not what you offered was elementary, but it's just you do these simple actions. Simple actions that if you're consistent with it, and that's what I love about the app is it's designed so you are consistent within your relationship strengthens. What I love that you brought up is it's not just about your partner, it's about your family, it's about your kids, it's about your community. However you are present in your community, you have this impact. And I'm so happy for you guys, and I'm so proud of you guys for creating and developing it. And I look forward to seeing what this will be in 5 to 10 years.
36.
It's exciting.
Man, we got some stuff on our roadmap that's just brilliant, man. But right now we're just seeking to, we haven't pushed the app out across like the airways intentionally, but some things that we need to get fixed in the experience. And to make it a more full experience as it is today. But the things that we have on a roadmap right now, man, it's just electric in terms of what's going to actually help drive value in a relationship. And there's a lot of things that drive value, but we're building a solution that is going to make couples want to come back to you, right?
Yeah.
Make them consistently want to come back. And we're not there yet, but the things that we have on the roadmap is going to be really powerful. So I'm really excited about that. But for my own relationship, to be very honest, in a selfish way, it's like I built WooYourBoo because it's become an accountability thing for me. It's like you want to build something worthwhile, and you want to live a life worthwhile. And to me, what's worthwhile is being successful with my wife and my children. Having a company there where I have to kind of practice, where I have to practice what I preach. It holds me accountable.
Yeah,
and I feel like that's another blessing. And I was going to say in disguise, but it's not disguise. It's fully there. But we're here to transform or change a generation, man. The way we think about relationships, the way we approach them, the way we, everything that we do. And until people start putting their relationships first and the quality of them, we'll always struggle as a species.
Yeah.
We'll always live backwards. Always. Always.
I think it's just something we take for granted because these relationships are just given to us.
Yeah.
When it comes to family or even friends, whether it's school or workplace, colleagues, acquaintances, it's just like, well, we're just here. So we just take it for granted as opposed to how can we make this something fantastic and powerful and like you said, fun. It's something that I don't think people think of when they think of their relationship. Like, let's have fun. This is because it's so that's why I'm very excited about it, and its evolution. Super happy for it. So where can because I know it's not, like you said, it's not out everywhere yet.
It's just in Canada. We released it in Canada intentionally because it's hard to manage multiple markets. So the next market we contemplated going into is the United States. But before we went there, we wanted to make sure that we built a certain component that hopefully in the next couple of months will be built, at least by the middle of the summer, is built and released. And then at that time, we'll go into the United States. But I think that's going to be the catapult, or I really believe, based off the research that we've done, that's going to be the catalyst to help us to continue the growth and the development on the app, but also just to create that noise that we need as a brand, so people could see WooYourBoo and feel good about the brand and the experience in the brand itself, whether it's with, podcast or the app itself or clothing or whatever it is. But so we're looking for that. So when I think about people downloading it now, we're looking for 100, like our first 100 people. We're looking for the 20 couples that we need to connect with, right? Yeah. Who are going to be the 20 couples that's going to help us really innovate and iterate on a product. So we're trying to identify who those couples are at this time. But
cool.
Like a real launch we'll probably end up doing like in the summertime. Yeah.
Cool. So what can, and they can find this in Canada right now on Google Play or Apple.
That's right. So go to Google Play, go to Apple, type
WooYourBoo, all one word.
Yeah, one word. Make sure it's one word, no space.
So what can people expect from their experience? Can you give a little bit?
Yeah. So right now, what you can expect from WooYourBoo is the way we designed the app today is to provide you with date ideas and romantic suggestions for you to do for your significant other, your boo, your bae, based off the way they want to be loved. So if you can imagine, you going into the app, we learn your love expression, in other words, how you want to be loved.
That's where I'm at right now. Yeah.
So when you super connect your significant other or you invite them, then you learn their love expressions too. And then we suggest date ideas and romantic suggestions that you can do for each other based off how you want to be loved. And when you plan these romantic suggestions and dates, you actually earn points, right? And so, the goal is that over time, you'll be able to take these points and use them for future rewards in real life, like discounts on certain restaurants or experiences and things like that. But
Cool.
That's not today. But the whole goal is to get in the app, to do things for each other based off how each other wants to be loved, the way you did it at the very beginning of your relationship. And there's also content in there that you can read based off the goals in your relationship as well. So whatever relationship goals that you have or that you guys have together, we'll feed you different content or romantic things to do or date ideas based off the goals that you have in your relationship as well.
That's awesome. And I think for me, starting to use it, it was something that I realized I had never been aware of, was my love expressions. How do I want to be communicated with when it pertains to my wife? And I was like, man, I've never thought. I was like, men don't think about this. So it's awesome that you guys are doing this, and I'm excited to see how for you guys it will evolve, but personally, selfishly for me,
that's the proper selfishness. That's good, right?
With my wife and our family. So and everything what I'm excited about as well is, and this is why I asked you to collaborate and continue to through the IAFM League, is because a lot of things they match.
Right.
With
parallel with each other.
They parallel, absolutely. Building a life where it's balanced, where it is fun, where you grow and evolve, and relationships in different facets, not just your partner, but and the fact that you guys are doing points, and it's something that we do as well. So it's I love it so much, and I can't wait to see what's going to happen in the next 3 to 6 months with it, man.
Me too.
Yeah.
I'm serious, man. I'm sitting there thinking about it in my head, like, oh, that's going to be so awesome. That's going to be great.
What happened? If you think about 2, 3, 4 years ago, whenever this started happening, you probably would never fathom where you guys are now with it, how it's being developed.
No, man. No, yes and no. No, because you just don't know, and you kind of need to go through the experience. Yes, no, I'm gonna just say no.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say yes.
You have,
but I'm grateful for where we are today.
Yeah, and
I need to be more grateful because when you're in a startup, it's like you want things to go. I want things to go and move a lot faster, and they don't. A lot of things are out of my control, but it's like when you're building a new product, you don't want to give everybody everything at once because they become unappreciative.
Yeah.
It's almost like you have to spoon feed people along the way so that they can appreciate the experience and get the value. It's like me going to a world-class restaurant and they handed me a menu of 50 items. That's like the dinner menu is 50 things. It's like, that's too many things for me to choose from. But if you got 10 to 15 and they're great, now you got me. I'm gonna choose one of those things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, so that is, as we're building, we have to keep human psychology in the forefront of our minds so that we're not overbuilding, but that we're actually helping couples solve the problem of communication, adventure, in their relationship. So
I love it.
yeah.
Thank you so much for your time today, buddy. I appreciate it. Much love to you, Colleen, and the family.
Yes.
And again, you can go on your website, WooYourBoo.com.
Yep. Hit us up. Or follow us at WooEternal, WooEternal at WooEternal on IG and TikTok.
Perfect. And I'll put that in the comments once
perfect.
this is uploaded on our YouTube page. So excellent. Love you, buddy.
All right. Love you too, man. Tell your Manuel and kids.
Thank
Bless
you.
Deuces. Have a great weekend. Yeah, we're in a weekend right
now.
All these days start running together. You know what I'm saying? But God bless you, brother. We'll be in touch. I'll talk to you soon. Yep.
Cheers. Bye-bye. Thank you very much for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed LaVance's story and his discoveries and his insight through his transition from college athlete to family man and his passion for having a positive impact on so many men and their families. You can check out the comments below to see where to find LaVance and his links to his pages, as well to where to download the WooYourBoo app. And if you want to learn more about where to find info on the IAFM League, you can check that out in the comments below as well. If you enjoyed our chat today, I would encourage you to like the video. And if you saw great value in it, I would encourage you to subscribe to our channel and to share it. Thank you so much for being here today, and I look forward to having you join us on the next IAFM podcast.